The Money Show. Personal finance.
It's an unusual personal finance tonight because I do get lots of emails, I get lots of SMSs from you, and many of the complaints are very specific to you and your particular problem. You missed a payment on an insurance product, or you didn't pay your tax, or whatever the case is. And we don't highlight those on the radio because those are very specific issues to you. But occasionally one comes across my desk and I think, actually, this might be of broad general interest. It's to do with investments, it's to do with something that you yourself might do, and we can all learn from somebody else's experience. Tommy in Midrand, you sent me a very long and very detailed email. I'm going to ask you to summarize it into 1 minute. What was the gist of your complaint, Tommy?
Okay, Bruce. Now, so I've been a long-time listener of The Money Show, and I've really tried to implement some of the good ideas that I've found on the show. And one of that was, instead of first paying tax on my, on my salary and then investing that, to really maximize the 27.5%, tax-free investments that one can do on your pre-tax income, and then even after that, invest in tax-free shares and the like.
Sure. So you invested, you maxed out on your retirement annuity.
Correct. And also for myself and each of the family members, on the tax-free, the 2,500 a month. So I think, instead of first paying tax, so I'm trying to use the tax to my advantage. And then in the beginning of this year, I was taking stock of my financial affairs, and I heard some of the interviews you did on the radio of some low-cost alternatives to some of the more traditional fund managers where, the investment costs are typically between 0.5% and 1%. And I approached my insurer to find out what it would cost me to transfer my investment to one of the new providers. And I was astounded that they wanted to charge me the princely sum of 30% of my investment to move it. And I thought to myself, gee whiz, all this sensible things that's been made available to consumers and lower cost alternatives, but yet I find myself locked into a product where they want to charge me 30% to exit. And I just thought to myself, this cannot be in the best interest of South Africans out there.
When did you start the relationship on this particular RA, Tommy?
So it was 2004. So at the time I was 25 years old, so when obviously not as streetwise as I would say I am now. So 13 years later, and I faced this huge penalty to change it.
I mean, what's the explanation from Old Mutual as to why they want to charge you 30% of the investment value of your portfolio?
So they haven't really come out and said it. But basically, when I queried the 30%, they gave me an explanation to say, listen, the regulations allow them to charge 30%. And then there was a big story and some explanation, and they said to me, okay, but they're only going to charge me 21%. And I thought to myself, okay, I appreciate that. But 21% of my RA is still a serious amount.
Now, what struck me as interesting in your email, when you sent me an email, you said you're a financial manager. You are somebody who is financially literate.
I would say so.
Okay. But in your complaint to Old Mutual, you said, in the time I was prepared to dedicate to the research into this particular product, I didn't really understand what the consequences would be. I'm summarizing what you said. It strikes me that if you had applied your mind in 2004 when you bought this, would you have made a different decision if you'd applied your mind more fully than you seem to have?
To be honest, Bruce, at the time, there wasn't all the alternatives that there are now. So, at the time, I took a policy with a dear friend. I thought to myself, I might as well buy the policy from my friend, and let him earn the commission and then some, random stranger that I don't know. So, at the time, none of the low-cost alternatives was available as far as I'm aware. So, after I've now kind of realized that there are some alternatives, I was trying to use them, and that's when I realized that, it's going to cost me probably more. I'm probably going to be worse off taking the 30% knock and investing it with a low-cost alternative than just now sticking it out with my current investment house.
Tommy, thank you for explaining it. Tommy in Midrand. Stay with us, Tommy, because we do have Warren Ingram paying attention to this, and the general manager for closed products at Old Mutual, Adrian Burke, is with us in studio as well. Warren Ingram, what exactly did Tommy buy back in 2004?
Just, I guess, the most generic type of RA that you could get, just a normal retirement annuity offered by a large life insurance company, and they they were all pretty much the same at the time. I'm racking my brains as to whether you could buy an RA from a unit trust company at the time, but it was really bog standard RA, and his question that he's raising now is one I face probably 15-20 times a month.
Okay, well, what is the rationale between such very, very big penalty fees for withdrawing money from a retirement annuity product that's 13 years old?
So I think there are a couple of factors here. I mean, and it's easy for to be the Donald Trump here and just play to the audience and bash the insurance company. As you know, I have a great affinity for insurance companies. So I'm not. I don't think I'm changing.
Tongue firmly in cheek on that particular front, just in case somebody misunderstands.
Yes,
you're not a fan of these products. You're not a fan of the way in which they were sold many years ago.
Never have been. Still not today. I still would tell people to rather buy your RA from a unit trust company than an insurance company. But I think you have to be balanced. And the one thing that insurance companies have lobbied very hard for in this kind of a debate is how their argument would be, if someone's saving $100 a month, how would they be able to afford quality advice? And I think, so there are a couple of things in this, but quality advice from somebody who would look at their position and give them the proper recommendation as to how they should manage their investments or start their investment career, etc. Because if they can only afford $100 or $300 a month, and they were to sit with an advisor who charged them, a fair fee, an hourly fee or a planning fee, etc., sure, the likelihood is they wouldn't be able to afford to pay for it.
So the idea is you get tied into an investment product for a long time. The product that Tommy bought, would he be tied in this from the age of 25 all the way to the age of 55 when he's allowed to start accessing that retirement annuity? I mean, that seems like an extraordinarily long relationship. And I think the part to understand about a retirement annuity is that you cannot access the money until you're 55 anyway. But the law does allow for portability of retirement annuities. So in other words, you can and you can move them. So that's one thing. But the insurance companies have lobbied very hard and unfortunately successfully to make it very difficult to move them. And then what they do is they make advisors go to their clients every single year and say, you need to sign every single year that I'm going to get an advice fee from this RA that you moved from the insurance company years ago. So okay, that'll be the one positive in this thing is that you can move them, but their penalty will exist. Okay, the penalty will exist. Are these sorts of products still on sale now, Warren?
I think so, and I think the other comment that you'll probably hear is that the penalty will decline over time. In other words, it will be at the maximum, and it fascinates me that the penalty is always at the maximum. Why is that?
Let's ask Warren. Okay, I'm going to give Adrian Burke a turn, Warren. You're talking a lot.
Sorry.
Warren Ingram from Galileo Capital, financial advisor, joins us regularly on a Thursday night to talk about issues of personal finance. In studio with me, Adrian Burke, general manager for what they call closed product at Old Mutual. What is closed product?
Closed products are the products that are no longer sold. It's a particular range that was available and is no longer being sold.
Okay, so this particular product that Tommy from Midrand bought, is something that is no longer on the market.
Correct.
Okay. Now, why condemn somebody like Tommy to such massive penalties on something that the industry accepts today was kind of unfairly structured? Because that's why they no longer exist.
I think it's important to sort of step back and look at the nature of savings products and how they've evolved. Savings products, a number of years ago, let's go back to 2004, were largely focused on delivering value at the end of the term of a policy. So the key thing was a customer tended to be comfortable with the fact that there was a savings policy, it was a long-term contract, and there was a commitment to adhere to the contract. And generally, that was the behavioral side was that customers were happy. What's happened over time is that customer behavior has changed, and not just with retirement, but all sorts of savings products.
And there's also a guy called Vuyani Ngilwana who in about 2004, 2005 was unleashed on the financial services market and brought to a head many of these sorts of practices and forced the industry to change. It wasn't about customer behavior. Customers were cross that they were being penalized with, you could invest in an RA that underperforms and you're trapped in this prison, financial prison, you're shackled to this product and you can't move out of it. Even if there's underperformance, it was a very unfair structure.
Well, perhaps let's deal with I'll come back to the retirement side because I think even now you are stuck in a retirement annuity, less so. But customer behavior had changed. So what was happening is very few people in savings products were getting to the end of the term, the contractual term, which then meant people were far more focused on what it is they could get out earlier than that. And so it naturally led to this state where product design had to change. Product design had to change to not only focus on the end of the term, but also focus on what customers were getting out earlier, when they wished to access their savings earlier. And so that's a behavioral. So, and then exactly as you say, regulation changed in line with that.
So, a guy called Pentago Arduino on my Twitter account summarizes it quite well, saying the big penalties are to pay off the huge upfront commissions paid to the SMOS, or to the salesperson. Old Mutual and the SMOS win, and you lose 40 years later. I mean, that is why there was this change. Now, when we sit in 2017 and you've got somebody like Tommy who is wanting to make a smarter financial decision, why is he being penalized to the extent that he is? 30% was what the call center told him he would have to pay in order to get out of these products. Why go to the maximum, as Warren points out?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'll dispute going to the maximum. There are very few cases nowadays where any form of penalty would be anywhere near the maximum.
So 30% is not the maximum; it can go higher.
No. 30, on an RA, 30% is the maximum.
Okay, and which is what he was told he would have to pay, wasn't he?
It was less than 30%,
okay.
But I don't want to argue about the particular case.
Okay.
I think that what I think was important there is the figure that Tommy was initially quoted was incorrect, and that was
so Old Mutual made a mistake with the figure.
Old Mutual made a mistake with the figure. It was a manual process. We put our hands up and say we are.
It's a good thing.
Sorry for that.
It's a good thing he challenged it then, because he got it down to 21%, which is still more than 1/5 of everything that he's invested and all the growth that he's had over 13 years. He has to give to you so that he can get out of the product. Is that fair?
Okay. If one considers all the parties in any arrangement like this, there is the customer, there is obviously the insurer, and there's the advisor. For us to have a sustainable business, you need all parties to have a fair participation in it.
But we accept that the products that were structured in the way that this product was structured were unfairly structured, and they prejudiced the customer, which is why Vuyani Ngolwana came in. That's why he was appointed. That's why there's been a restructuring. The world has moved on. Investments have moved on. The guys like Tommy, who were doing the right thing 13, 15 years ago, are being prejudiced today. Surely there can be greater latitude saying, we can't allow you out of Old Mutual. We've got some index products we can let you invest in, lower cost index products. We can keep you within the stable, but we're not going to penalize you like it's 2004.
Well, it's great you mentioned that, because if you stay within a stable, whether it's Old Mutual or any of the retirement funds, there is no penalty applicable.
Okay, so this penalty is only applicable then if Tommy takes his money to an Allan Gray or a Coronation or a Sanlam or anybody else.
It's only if it takes it to another retirement fund. Okay, so within the product as it stands, the product as it exists has a full suite of investment funds, not only Old Mutual funds. So if Tommy wants
I want to ask Tommy why he's not done that. Tommy, why not just move your product within Old Mutual then?
I would have loved that advice, Bruce. So I'm, to be honest with you, I'm not really picky as to where it goes. Currently, I do have the option to cease contributions into the fund, but then I'm going to pay an annual fee of 3.45% for Old Mutual to manage my money. At no stage was I even aware that they do have cheaper alternatives. I mean, I would love to explore that. Index-linked fund, I mean, Warren Buffett is...
Yeah, no, okay. So, I mean, the thing is, Tommy, you've been fighting about moving your money, and at no point have you been counseled as to these are the alternatives within Old Mutual. Is that what you're telling me?
Exactly, yeah.
That's Warren Ingram, I'm interested in your perspective on what Tommy is telling us.
I mean, he's saying a couple of things there. One, to say, okay, we'll stay in the stable, but you're going to still pay 3.45% a year. Now, I mean, we've said on this show many times that if your product costs are over 2% a year, you need to think very carefully, and so 3.45 is for me still massively.
It is still high. Okay, let's park the rights and wrongs of 3.45 versus 2%. Okay, it's I realize that it is expensive still, but it's a considerably better option than paying 21% to get out of an investment product you don't like.
Yeah, agreed. And so that should almost be the kind of, my question would be as well, why not go back to your clients and just say that right up front? Why not, if you've closed these things, why not say, okay, we've closed them and here are some alternatives that might be better for you.
Is it a failure from an advisory perspective? Is it a failure on the person, on the financial advisor? Where is the bottleneck here, Warren?
I think the advisors definitely have to take some of the blame, and unfortunately, what you need to understand is if you go to any of the big insurers and you say on one of these old things, tell me what the penalty will be. You heard that it's a manual calculation, so that tells you that it takes weeks and weeks to actually get the information back, and so that becomes quite a long drawn out process, and we get lots of these every week. So the point is now you're spending hours and hours going through this. So I'd say yes, advisors do need to take some of the blame, but I'd also say that the product providers here should be much more proactive to say there are better products out there. We've got them. These costs would be better for you. And then my question is, why is it still a percentage? Why isn't it a rand fee per policy? To try and kind of meet the client somewhere along the line. I mean, it feels to me like it's. We're not going to do anything. You were sold this years ago, and if you stay until you're 55, the chances are you'll be okay. You'd probably have only paid 3.3 through the life of the... It's a lot of money. 3.3% a year is a lot of money.
Yeah. Adrian Burke, I mean, there seem to have been a lot of failures in this process. Adrian? Yeah, I mean, there seem to be a lot of failures in the process. Tommy was given a bad number, so Tommy then picked a fight. Then Tommy's fight got escalated, came to us, we took interest in it, we sent it off to your media people. The media people went, oh my goodness me, this could be bad. And then it went through Old Mutual and he got a figure of 21%. But at no point does anybody say, hey, Tommy, I know you might not want to pay 3.5% fees a year, but we have got an alternative for you.
I would say, first of all, there was a failure in the first place in the manual calculation, and we apologize to Tommy for that. It was a failure that would have been picked up, so it's not as though Tommy would have been charged the full amount. It was at a quote stage. I think it's a fine line one needs to tread as to where advice starts and where advice ends. So from a product provider point of view, we have it out there as to what the range of products are and what's available. We don't see it as, at this stage, as our role to talk to the customer and suggest that there are alternatives, because we believe that is treading in the advice space.
It doesn't do the brand much good, though, you see. I mean, because, isn't there generic advertising that can be done saying, guys, if you're stuck in an old world financial product, perhaps there's an exit path for you. What does Tommy do now, I wonder? So, Tommy and Midrand, thanks for holding. What's your next step?
Yeah, so I think for me the most optimal outcome at this stage is to stop contributions to the current policy, unless if Old Mutual can give me some attractive alternative, and start new contributions with another provider. I mean, like I said, I've heard fees of 0.5%, 1%, and Warren has always explained, the impact of fees on the long term. I mean, I just cannot, 2%, 3%, 3.5% in a low yield world, it's just not acceptable in my books.
Well, Tommy, I wish you luck, and I thank you for bringing it to our attention. I think we've all learned a lot. When did we, the industry, the country, when did South Africa stop making these sort of products available, Adrian?
Well, the nature of the product has changed. So I wouldn't say that they've stopped making the products, but the nature has changed as regulation has changed. So in particular...
the lock-ins. When did the lock-ins stop?
The lock-ins have reduced. They haven't stopped.
Okay.
As Warren mentioned, commission used to be payable as a upfront, and that was a particular contributor to the penalties is the fact that a lot of money was paid to the advisors up front, and then that was recovered via charges over the balance.
And that has changed.
And that changed in 2009.
Precisely to prevent this sort of circumstance.
And that changed in 2009 to reduce the amount that was payable up front. And then, in addition, the regulator has worked with the industry, and the maximum reductions that are allowable on disinvestment were brought down in A limit was placed in 2007, a new one in 2013, and those limits are reducing again and again.
Can you at least appreciate why Tommy is irritated?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But it makes it quite difficult then to defend a position of, well, these are the rules, when customers are actually feeling quite hard done by the process.
I wouldn't say at all that our answer is these are the rules and this is the legislation and it allows us to do it.
That's the sense Tommy got, though. And when you're in, money is a deeply personal thing. And when you're sitting on the receiving end of somebody in a call center who probably doesn't care too much about your future. I mean, I'm sure they're nice people at home. There is a disconnect, and that's the great difficulty.
I think one of the challenges is finding the best ways of communicating both what a product does and the options available. It's as part of if we talk about treating customers fairly, I think one of the most difficult parts to get right is that customer communication. And to an extent, this is what we're talking about. It's less about what a product offers and is more around how how a customer understands what's available and how the customer's expectations are managed. And it's very difficult. And what we do is when we hear people like Tommy, and what we need to do is take the learnings on board and constantly improve.
There we go. That is the voice of Adrian Burke, who's the General Manager for Closed Product at Old Mutual. You also heard from Warren Ingram, and you also heard from Tommy Nell, who has come up with his own solution as to how he is going to be managing his finances in the future. Big warnings, good lessons, and also lessons for companies like Old Mutual who can, frankly, manage these things better.